Always enjoy the Arkansas football conversation with Ty Hudson from Pig Trail Network right here at the Voice of College Football. Please subscribe and hit that bell for the notifications to know when we go live. Do all those good things. Hit the like button, but do that over at Pig Trail Network as well with Ty. Ty, how we doing today?
Yo, Mark, how you doing, man? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. We're both clearing the cobwebs.
Yeah. Like I said before we started recording, I was like, this week is crazy. We got to get this. If we're gonna get this done, we're gonna have to do it. And it's gonna have to be this morning because I know I'm excited to talk about the defense and what's going on with spring camp.
All right. So if the Arkansas defense is going to get it done, then you're going to have to let us know if that's doable this year, because you hear the term probably more than I do. You know, this guy's an SEC player, or this is really an SEC defense, and it's kind of this vague but understandable thing among people that love college football, follow college football, that this defense is legit, or this player's legit. He's an SEC player or an SEC defense. So before we dive into the particulars, I know it's a growing and building process, and Sam Pittman's done a remarkable job, and 9-4 is nothing to discard in any such way, especially since I considered it to be easily a top 15 team in the country. But have we gotten to a point where this could be an SEC type defense?
Finally, yeah. I feel pretty good about it. I mean, if I'm being real honest, and I mean, you know me, Mark, I'm pretty blunt. I'm not going to sugarcoat, and I'm going to be as honest about it as I can. I think with these new additions, with the transfers that they have coming in, and most of which are going to be not full participants, but they're going to be present during spring camp, combined with the, All-American Jalen Catalon. Second team all conference caliber player in Bumper Pool. I mean, you feel pretty good about the combination of the new guys, the new faces, even some of the younger cats, and then the guys that have been here for a minute. I think I think they could very well be a legit high. I don't want to say high caliber SEC defense, but a really solid SEC defense.
So we can take this on level to level here and start with the defensive front. And again, just to spin off that narrative again, offensive line, defensive line seem to be those primary units on the field where, okay, you have to be at least strong, solid, if not spectacular, dynamic at that point of attack to compete in this conference. No doubt about it. So set us up on the defensive front.
It's going to be interesting, and I'm glad you put it that way. I'm glad you framed it that way because, and I know that this is probably the same point of emphasis for any team, especially the teams in Power 5 football. But in the SEC, you're nothing without line of scrimmage play. I mean, you're nothing. And last year, I said to you after spring camp, I was on your show, and I said, I've got questions about the defensive line. I feel a little bit better about where they're going there. And I feel like the line of scrimmage, I mean, I know we've already touched on offense, but Mark, they're returning 4 out of the 5 starting offensive linemen on the offensive line, and all those guys coming back, especially the center, all conference caliber guy, right? We're on the defensive line. I don't know if they have any all conference caliber guys yet. We just don't know enough. We've got this young man out of LSU who transferred in, Landon Jackson. Long-bodied kid. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's 6'6", 6'7", like 270, I think 270 pounds, long arms, big hands, just a big dude. Unfortunately, he's not a full participant during the spring camp, but he's someone who I feel like his ceiling could be really high, and I'm not just saying that because he's coming out of LSU. He's someone you do need to keep an eye on, and, I'm hoping we get to see him towards the end of spring camp. I'm really excited to see, first off, what he looks like in a Razorback jersey, or a Razorback gear head to toe. But really high ceiling. This was a kid that was highly rated out of high school, big time 4-star prospect, and LSU was kind of bummed to lose him. And reading some of their Twitter comments, they're going to, I think they know that they may have lost something here in him. You've got guys like Zach Williams, another, not a huge defensive end, but a guy that's around 6'3", 6'4", about 260. he may have slimmed down. I know they just posted those numbers, and it sounds like some guys actually lost some weight, gained more muscle, and kind of lost some of the baby fat. But Zach Williams is a guy on the defensive line to keep an eye on. Isaiah Nichols has been a kind of fascinating to watch. Not a real long guy. He's going to end up probably playing. He could end up at the nose guard spot, 6'2", 6'3", about 300 pounds. You've got Torrin Carter, Cameron Ball in the mix there. These are all, 6'3". Now, Cameron Ball is actually a little bit bigger. He's kind of an athletic freak, actually. Cameron Ball is 6'5". I think he's about 310, 315. He'll be a redshirt freshman. That is someone who, when I go to the open practice that they're going to have, I think it's on, oh man, when is that? I want to say it's I don't know when it is. I'm going to get caught up on that. But when they do have the open scrimmage, again, they're not doing a red, white scrimmage. They're going to do an open scrimmage, though, a little bit different atmosphere. I'm going to keep an eye on I think he's number 92, Cameron Ball. The big question, I think, on the defensive line, not only, Jackson, and of course you've got this Georgia Tech transfer, Jordan Dominic, who, this kid hits the portal, and a lot of schools were making contact. And I think Arkansas was one of the first. You're going to keep an eye on the defensive line, but not just the names and numbers. It's going to be, how do they line up front? Are they going to go with a three-man front, or are they gearing up? Because it certainly looks that way to me. Maybe we're finally going to get a chance to see that 4-2 front that that the media around here has kind of talked about a bit. I think Sam Pittman made a comment, maybe not last year, but the year before, how they kind of want to eventually get to a situation where they can run multiple fronts. Hog fans saw a little bit of the four-man front last year, but not a lot. They didn't go after the quarterback a lot. They didn't blitz the quarterback a lot. So that to me, not only just through spring camp, but also when the season comes around, and it'll be here before we know it, how aggressive are they on defense? How often are they, firing on all cylinders to come after the quarterback? So more blitzes and more blitz packages, and what's the front situation going to be like? Are they going to run a three-man front? Are they going to run a four-man front? I don't always tend to, they'll come out and say something, Sam Pittman will, and then we'll kind of see the opposite happen. So I think also you might take some of what he says with a grain of salt. I don't know if that's strategy or if it's just an ever-evolving situation, but yeah, the defensive line, I feel like, is in better shape compared to where we were at this time last year, for sure.
Ty mentioned Zach Williams and Isaiah Nichols, pretty productive. 21 seasons out of those guys. Williams had 23 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Nichols, 21 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. Now we get to the linebackers, and when you look at the stat sheet, this is where it all has been funneled in terms of tackles. Guys like Grant Morgan, Bumper Pool, of course, have been exceptional. So linebacking core.
Yeah, well, they lose Henry, who was a very productive rotating linebacker for them, and then of course they lose Grant Morgan, guy who won the Burlsworth Trophy, best walk-on in the country, and should have probably won it last year. Honestly, he should have been a two-time recipient of that trophy. But you lose Grant Morgan, and you lose a pretty productive Henry there. So the question is, what happened to Bumper Pool? Was he going to come back or not? And I'll tell you right now, I wasn't so sure that if you lost Pool that they're going to be able to go into the transfer portal and go grab someone of that caliber. Bumper Pool is a machine. I mean, the guy, he doesn't blow up on film. When you watch him, it's not like, oh my God, that's a first-round draft pick. Not by a long shot, but he's a very talented, underrated linebacker. Probably, my guess will be second team, maybe third team all SEC coming into the preseason. 6'2", I think 235, big dude. Again, moves well. On wherever you want to put him, but of course he's going to end up probably playing. He's going to end up more than likely at the will spot with Christopher Paul, 6'1", 240 redshirt. I think he's a redshirt freshman. Those two will more than likely be the guys on the field. But it was such a big deal to get Bumper Pool back. But then we find out a little while later they go into the portal, Mark, and they get Drew Sanders out of Alabama. I mean, before this guy got banged up at Bama, he was a monster. He's really talented linebacker for them. Now for Alabama, that's a dime a dozen. Their linebacker U, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best at that program between them and maybe old school Penn State. Penn State, of course, was linebacker U for a while. Bama has certainly taken that role over for the last while, and to get someone like that out of Alabama, I mean, we're not talking about some undersized guy that just found his way onto the field at Bama. We're talking about a 6'4", 240, 242, I think, size linebacker. I believe he only has 1 year of eligibility. Please, someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. But really talented guy. Stands out on film. This is someone who's legit. If he could stay healthy and he's bought into the system, and I don't know why he wouldn't, and he remains coachable and all that stuff, this could be I think he could be a draft pick. I mean, and it's not often that Arkansas has, a linebacker of this talent. Like, don't get me wrong. They've had some great ones in my day, going back to watching them back all the way back to the years of Caleb Miller, or even before that, Samuel Jabutu. Of course, you could fast forward a little bit to Montrell Spate, who was a JUCO prospect who came in year one, was not very good. Year two, he transformed overnight. It was incredible. Had a good enough season that it got him drafted or got him into the NFL. And then, of course, you can talk about Scooter Harris and Dre Greenlaw, who was drafted, actually played safety at Fayetteville High, and they transformed him into a linebacker here. But it's not very often they have a linebacker of this caliber along with someone like Bumper Pool, right? They've got a young man behind them by the name of Marco Avant, 6'3", 200, and I want to say unless he lost weight, I think he's about 220. Pretty good sized kid, plenty of speed. Manny Powell, 6'3", 225-pound true freshman out of Dre Greenlaw's alma mater, Fayetteville High. Unfortunately, he's not a full participant during spring camp. They're in pretty good shape here. And bringing in Drew Sanders, like getting Bumper Pullback alone was awesome, because I think there's a lot of hype behind Christopher Paul, Jordan Crook. I've heard some good things about Caden Henley, who's a true freshman, along with Crook and Manny Powell. There's some promise here, Mark. I think their linebacker core is going to be pretty productive, and they just naturally are in this defense anyways. But they're on I think this could be a really good season for the linebackers at Arkansas. This could be a year where they might actually, or we're talking about maybe even 2 potential draft picks in Bumper Pool and Drew Sanders, which is not super common at Arkansas. It's been an Achilles for their defense for a long time.
Sanders had 24 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss for the Tide last season, and Ty a little bit more impressive physically on the stat sheet than even what you sized up there. 3 different sites have him pretty consistently 6'5", 240.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know. I've only seen the 6'4". He's a big kid. And I heard that I was reading some spring reports from Sunday, spring camp reports, and they said that he fills out. Of course, they're only in helmet and jersey and shorts, I believe, right now, but everyone says that he's every bit of 6'4", and maybe then some. So it's not shocking. But yeah, he's a good sized kid. And they might also, they might also kind of move him around a little bit, because like I said, they've got Christopher Paul, they've got Marco Avant, Jordan Crook. They might move Sanders around and maybe put him where Trey Williams was at a year ago and have him kind of be that stand-up edge rusher if they need him to be. If he needs to be that, he can be that.
Talking up the Hogs, we got Ty Hudson on the line from Pig Trail Network. Lock in on his work over there. You got it right there on the banner. Pig Trail Network for Arkansas sports, football, baseball, basketball. And, of course, he'll take you through March Madness and, of course, the baseball season and a spring practice with the Hogs taking on the Hogs on the football field over the next month or so. And we talked off the top, Ty, about this Arkansas defense building towards something. And, of course, Sam Pittman taking over a bit of a mess on both sides of the ball and making something out of it remarkably. If he hasn't been, he could have been coach of the year the last 2 seasons across the country. But when I look back on that 3-7 season, which on the surface 3-7 doesn't sound impressive, but considering where they were and the nature of the 3-7 and how competitive it was, I think about them playing a defensive style that they had to play, because we talked about not quite being an SEC caliber defense from a size point, defensive depth, and so forth. They were opportunistic, if nothing else, and a lot of that had to do with the secondary play. And the classic game against Matt Corral, picking him off 6 times, comes to mind as well. So set us up on the defensive side in the secondary.
Yeah, so again, more transfers. A possibility here of a couple of guys that might even come in and start. In LSU, former LSU Tiger Dwight McGlothern, who, by the way, is already off to a pretty strong spring camp, and someone who's mouthy. And I'm going to be honest with you, Mark, I have no problem with that. I like mouthy. That's kind of part of the role that we don't talk enough about with corners when they're matched up against these receivers. It's the same way. One of the best athletes I ever watched play the game. Of course, I'm a Celtics fan. I'm representing. But one thing that one of my favorite Celtics players ever did, Kevin Garnett, he'd get in your ear. He'd start trash talking, and he gets inside your head, and it messes with you. I think that's what makes Jalen Ramsey such a great corner. One of the many things that makes Jalen Ramsey so great. Gets in those wideouts' heads. He gets them so angry where it throws them off their game a little bit. I think that might be what Dwight McGlothern might be a little bit. Apparently, he was pretty mouthy in their workouts on Sunday, and he made a play on I don't know who he was covering, but apparently he was jawing that receiver's, letting him like, hey man, you know what? Nothing's happening here because I'm covering you. I love that. I like those guys that have a little chip on their shoulder. We're Arkansas. We should always have a chip on our shoulder, Mark. The whole world looks down on us. I mean, that's kind of the way we feel about it. If you don't believe me, go follow Bryce Mitchell on Twitter, UFC fighter. I'm not into UFC. Go follow him. That is your typical, like, Arkansan with a chip on their shoulder kind of guy, and he represents the state so well. So I love hearing that Dwight McGlothern doing a little bit of mouthing off a little bit. But you have him. You have Latavius Brinney. These are 2 guys, too, pretty good size. These aren't little tiny corners or DBs. These are guys with a little bit of size beneath them. Latavius Brinney, transfer out of Georgia. And then you have Jalen Catalon, who's your All-American. This is going to be the guy between him and Bumper Pool. These 2 guys are going to be the leaders of the defense. I really like Jalen Catalon. Actually, he's done a couple of Instagram lives, and I don't mind like sitting in and kind of listening to him talk a little bit. I mean, you could tell he's got a real high just football IQ. And I love listening to him kind of talk a little bit about it, which every once in a while you'll get a little bit out of him on his Instagram lives. He knows what he's doing, and he's definitely got the ability to be a leader. And I think that's something they're going to ask him to do, Jalen Catalon, be a little bit more of a leader this year. You're going to have Miles Slusher, who I like his versatility. This is someone who can line up at any spot in the secondary, anywhere. He can line up as a cover corner guy. He could be he could defend the boundary. He can defend the slot. He could be your nickel. He could be your free safety. He's athletic enough that he could do it all. And I don't know what they're going to do with him. Last year, Sam Pittman admitted that, he did this with Bishop, one of the starting corners. He admitted that, one of our biggest issues is we didn't plant him at one corner spot and leave him there to develop. Once we did that, his play, he was better. He got better over time once we left him alone at a position. With Slusher, they're kind of doing the same thing where they're moving him around because of his versatility. But he could end up being your nickel there. We'll see. There's a couple of different players there who could end up lining up there at the nickel spot. I'm trying to remember the Penn State kid's name, the kid that transferred out of Penn State, Trent Gordon. Trent Gordon was someone who kind of stood out to me a couple times last year, actually, but he dealt with some injury issues. He could line up at the nickel spot. The corner positions, again, talking about Dwight McGlothern and Latavius Brinney. You're going to have Hudson Clark probably still in the mix. You're going to have Ladarius Bishop there, who Bishop's probably one of the 3 fastest guys on this roster, last I heard. Malik Chavis will be in the mix with the safeties. Again, this is another area because of these transfers you feel pretty good about. And, that's, what is that? 5 transfers, Landon Jackson at LSU on the defensive line, Jordan Dominic out of Georgia Tech, Drew Sanders out of Alabama, who will definitely be either a starter or a guy that probably plays Henry's role from a year ago, Dwight McLaughlin and Latavius Brinney, all these transfers, Mark, right now, just to give Arkansas fans or anybody else who hasn't really had a chance to kind of keep up with it all, because it's off-season football so fast-paced now. There's so much going on with the portal and all this NIL stuff. But last year, all the transfers that they had, if you recall, they had 3 transfers on the defensive line. All 3 of them came in on during spring camp. They were listed at the 3 spot on the depth chart. Every one of these guys I just mentioned, outside of Jordan Dominic, who's ineligible to participate during spring camp, all of them right now are at the 2 spot. So these guys are already a step ahead of the guys compared to a year ago. Now, I could be wrong. There might be one of those players that may have come in and been a 2 guy. And I think, if I remember right, one of them may not have been able to participate during spring camp. I can't really recall. Last year seems like 5 years ago, but I think this group is already off to a great start. Spring camp apparently has been much more fluid this year, a lot better. Talking to people who've actually had the opportunity to go and be a part of it, it seems a lot more fluid, and they're off to a great start, which no one's going to say they're off to a bad start. I get, but compared to previous years, I'm hearing that this year is off to a really good start for Sam Pittman's to begin his 3rd season as the head hog.
Ty, I would say that you stole one from LSU, a division rival in Jackson, but it turned out to be just a 1-for-1 trade. So Joe Fuchsia is a guy that when I heard about that transfer, hit me kind of in a curious sort of way, because here's a guy that is productive. Sam Pittman seems to be loved by his players. It's a growing situation at Arkansas where it's just building better and better and better. And he's been a part of that emergence, a big part on defense, 72 tackles last year. And then he goes to LSU. Sure, they bring in Brian Kelly, one of the best in the business, but their roster is very much in flux. They don't know who's who. Did he give any insight into why he took off?
Not that I'm aware of, and he wasn't the only one. They lost Brooks there as well. The only thing I could think of is it's home. I really don't know. Barry Odom is one of the best in the business. I mean, some would argue might be, if Arkansas can continue to tally up the talent, could really show off why he's, was once such a big name as a defensive coordinator. I really don't know. I know they've been on some Instagram lives. There was some chatter about their secondary coach at the time, who has since left. Maybe there's something there. I don't really know. From what I understand, too, this is the same guy that coached Jalen Catalon and Miles Slusher, and they love the guy. So I don't know. I think it's anybody's guess. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they felt like they get the opportunity to play at a program like LSU, which we all know. I mean, even Hog fans have to admit, when LSU's at their best, they're a national championship contender. Now, are they going to be this year? I do not think so. I realize Kelly's a great coach and everything, but he's got his work cut out for him. Not only that, but now they're facing this NCAA stuff, possible sanctions. We know Will Wade with the basketball program, good old wiretap Will Wade. He's out as the head basketball coach, and apparently there's some belief that maybe some of this NCAA stuff might be also targeting the football program. So I don't know. I wish those kids, I shouldn't say kids, those young men, I wish them the best of luck down there, but I feel like they probably at best maybe made a neutral move down to the LSU Tigers.
Sure. Cam Little hit on 20 of 24 kicks last year. Reed Bauer, 58 punts, 43-yard average. As you look at the special teams, what stays the same? What's different? What's up in the air?
Punt return is going to be fascinating. Cam Little might be an All-American, and he might be one of the best kickers they've had in a long time. I'm glad I was wrong about Scott Fountain. I'm glad, the special teams coach, because I'm going to be honest with you, Mark, his first 15 games, they were terrible. Special teams was awful. I mean, penalties on fourth down, guys not coming out onto the field to take part in special teams and take part in punt team. And it happened every week. On top of his first year, they were missing field goals. That's not his fault. The kicker they had at the time just really struggled. But punt coverage has always been pretty solid. Kick coverage, everyone's solid these days because no one really returns kicks. But there were so many issues on special teams. And then this year, it took them a few games, and they're still getting penalties on fourth down. But he did a great job turning it around. And I'll admit, they did a good job there. And punt return actually became somewhat of a threat. Punt return to me is going to be the most fascinating part of special teams because you've got Bryce Stevens, 6 foot, 180, I think 185. He'll be I think technically he'll be a redshirt freshman because he didn't burn his red shirt last year. Really quick. I'd heard he was fast, but he has it all. He has the juke ability, and he's got pretty good burst once he has the ball in his hands. Pretty interested in him. And not only him, but then you're going to have a track star, another Fayetteville alum kid, Isaiah Centenia, and you and I have talked about him, 4-star wide receiver, number 1 player in the state of Arkansas. He might. There's been some chatter that he could be a punt return guy, as someone who's definitely capable of doing it. I really don't know if he returned punts at Fayetteville, if I'm being completely honest. I think maybe he did a little bit. I only got to see him play once. Sadly, I only got to see him in person once. I don't recall them even fielding any punts, if I'm being honest. But could be someone with some legit speed, back there. A couple freshmen going at it for punt return. But that was a position where they got better as the year went on. The first, 6-7 games, it was like, just please field the punt. Don't muff the punt. Oh, well, he got 5 yards. Look at that. And then all of a sudden we're looking and we're going, oh my God, he just returned that ball, 25, 35 yards. It got better and better. So punt return is going to be something to keep an eye on. I'm a big fan of special teams. I think you've got to nail down all facets of the game, and special teams is just as important, in some cases, maybe the most important thing on the field for anyone. So, again, kickoff return, I could be Bryce Stevens, AJ Green on kick return. I don't expect that position. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to go on there. I haven't heard much, but it's going to be an evolving situation for kick return for sure. But AJ Green would probably be my guess as to who's going to return kicks. He's a speed guy too.
We get our Arkansas football take from Ty Hudson, Pig Trail Network. We are so glad that we always do. We always enjoy the conversation. It's always a good time. And for these spring previews, very much informational, not so much conversational for me. I just kick back and listen to the personnel breakdown to kind of soak up the knowledge. So, Ty, we appreciate you stopping by as always. Know you're busy with hoops and baseball as well. So appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me on, Mark. It's fun as always.